Welcome to Ear Biscuits. I'm Rhett.
And I'm Link. Thank you for joining us once again this week at the round table of dim lighting, covered in an increasingly large number of signatures. Hannah Hart is the latest signature. She is our guest this week, the amazing Harto. She got into some really good stuff, great candid conversation.
Talked about the extraordinary circumstances of her birth and then the extraordinary life that she had growing up in a home with a dad who was a preacher and Jehovah's Witness situation, and then what it's like to having been open about her sexuality on her YouTube channel. And what that was like. It's a good conversation.
We got into everything that you want to get into with the Hannah Harto.
But these signatures that are populating the round table of dim lighting, and it made me think about how everyone has this decision that they make of how they're going to sign their name.
And it made us think about another story that we've been wanting to tell you about signatures on our poster. First of all, we're selling a poster now. Am I going to turn this into a store opportunity?
Well, you always push the merch.
Good Mythical Morning poster is now available on our DFTBA store site. All of these posters are signed. Previous to that, we were selling, and I think there's still a few.
There are still some Mythical Show posters that are signed.
Limited edition Mythical Show.
There will be no more of those ever printed.
We sign them, Rhett Link right there with our silver Sharpie, and you can buy it.
So anyway, we sold these, and after they got shipped out, after the first batch was shipped out, we got a letter. Not a letter, we got a message.
An email.
What
I like to call them. When when the letters come over the E, I call them emails.
And Link, why don't you read this email? We won't tell you who it's from, but
I pulled up the email, and I'm going to read it verbatim from start to finish. Here we go. My son recently purchased a Mythical Show poster from DFTBA Records. He is 14 years old and used his hard-earned money to make the purchase. He was very excited to be getting a poster, quote, signed, in all capital letters, by both Rhett and Link, since he is a big fan of the Mythical Show on YouTube. Upon receipt of the poster, the first thing he noticed was that both names are written in exactly the same handwriting, and neither person used their last name.
Uh-oh.
Both first names only written in silver paint marker, exactly the same size, and exactly the same location on the poster. And the ampersand, quote, ampersand symbol sign was used between the names Rhett, ampersand, Link.
Right.
Why would two people use the ampersand sign when signing both their names? It also looks as if Rhett and Link, quote, were written by a teenager. This is what he noticed, his 14-year-old son. I have a friend who does handwriting analysis for our local police department. He took a quick look at the poster and agreed that neither name was probably authentic, and both were unquestionably written by the same hand.
Unquestionably.
He also agreed that anytime a, quote, celebrity autographs anything, unless they are Prince, Madonna, or Cher, they would probably use their last name as well. Then he quotes from Wikipedia, quote, Rhett and Link is the comedy, filmmaking, musical, and advertising duo of Rhett James McLaughlin and Charles Lincoln Link Neal, end quote. Both are 30-something guys. Neither is Madonna, Prince, or Cher.
That's true.
Hopefully. I'm thinking a last name is in order here.
Okay.
Obviously, you can see where this is going. This is still his email. If your purpose is to rip off their target audience, teenage boys, then you are clearly successful, since most folks might not have picked up on the signatures and would be happy to have the poster. But if you were truly concerned about actually selling what you advertised, then I think reparations are in order. He will gladly return the pathetically signed poster for an authentic one. Thank you for your consideration in this matter. And then he gives his mailing address.
We will not give that or his name. Okay. Now, when I first read this email, I was a little upset because if you have if you know us at all, if you've listened or watched anything that we've ever done, and you know a little bit about the kind of people we are, you probably know that this is not the kind of thing that we would do. We would not hire a teenager to sign our names on a poster.
But let me tell you, after signing 1,000 of these and then boxing them back up,
it's not a bad
taking
idea.
them to your house and letting you unbox them and sign your name and the ampersand either around mine or before mine to anticipate where I'm going to write it with my own hand.
Right.
And then you boxing it up and we send it to DFTBA to ship them out.
Maybe we should hire a teenager.
It certainly seems
Maybe
like
we
a
should
good idea.
outsource this whole thing. We should outsource the whole thing. Well, okay, so for whatever reason, probably because my last name is McLaughlin, very early on, we've always signed Rhett Link, because that's who we are. Well, you know us as Rhett and Link. You don't call us Rhett McLaughlin and Link Neal. So we always sign our names Rhett and Link, and we always use the ampersand. And like Link said, if I sign it first, I do the ampersand, and if Link signs it first, he does the ampersand.
And our signatures don't look like they've both been written by the same teenager.
Mine's in cursive and yours is in print, which is... So anyway.
Who is this handwriting expert?
Well, he should lose his job, first of all. So anyway, it was one of those situations where I don't like being accused of things that they're making me out to be something that I'm not. And the thing that really struck me is how positive, beyond a shadow of a doubt, this dad was. In fact, he had a thought, he had a belief, he had a perspective, and then every single thing about the world that he was observing in relation to this poster, in his mind, confirmed his suspicion that we were swindlers, that we were hiring a teenager to deceive his son and to get $20 out of his son's pocket. And, it's not fun to be accused of something like that. So what I did is I wrote... what I'm going to confess was a pretty smart-ass response.
Can I read part of it? I have it here.
Okay, all right.
Hello, first name of father who wrote the email. Tell your son thanks for ordering a poster. Period. Return. That was your first paragraph.
Uh-huh.
Second paragraph was much longer. We appreciate your desire to protect your son against being taken advantage of, but we were frankly taken aback at your level of certainty that we have been fraudulent. We're sorry if you feel that our process for signing things, first names only, with an ampersand is unacceptable, but that is the way we've always autographed things. I should just keep reading.
Go ahead.
Since we're known publicly and professionally as, quote, Rhett ampersand Link, this is what we signed. Our wives can testify to the fact that we each sat alone at our respective dining room tables and signed hundreds of posters over the many hours with our, quote, half, then sealed the posters up and exchanged them so the other could sign his, quote, other half. We're also a bit concerned about the aptitude of your friend who specializes in handwriting analysis, and worried that he might be causing your local police department to wrongfully convict someone, considering that our signatures are clearly different. Mine, Rhett's, is in cursive, while Link's is in print. We couldn't duplicate one another's signatures if we tried. But most importantly, we think it would be wise to be slow. You got a typo in your email. You said, we think it would be wise to be slow to be... Oh, I'm sorry. I just can't read it right. Let me try this one more time.
Okay.
But most importantly, we think it would be wise to be slow to be so accusatory in the future. Your absolute unquestioning perspective that we had attempted to scam our audience is more than a little insulting. I would hope that after watching our videos for any length of time, your son has learned that we are not the kind of guys who would ever consider doing something so insidious as selling fake signed posters. That being said, we would gladly ship you a poster signed with our full names, signed on the poster at a location of your choosing. Thanks again for your support of entertainment, Rhett ampersand Link. You signed the email. So then we sent him another poster.
Signed, Rhett James McLaughlin and Charles Lincoln Link Neal III. So this guy and his son have one of the only poster ever that was signed in full names.
All right, let's get to Hannah Hart. We had a great conversation, like I said. So let's delay no more. So give a few stats.
Yeah, you know her from youtube.com/myharto, where she has just under 800,000 subscribers and is known best for her weekly show, My Drunk Kitchen. She's also the 2013 Streamy winner for Best Female Performance in a Comedy, and she is a nice woman, as you will find out in a second.
She was also in our Christmas Sweats music video alongside Grace. Ladies and gentlemen, our convo with Hannah Hart.
Each week on Breathing Air, we discuss topics.
I like that.
That's my
Breathing
radio
air.
voice.
That's nice.
Yeah, exactly. I have it on my open waters.
Breathing air is what you want to call our podcast?
I think breathing air is like it's a pretty good radio voice thing to say.
Now, you did know, you were on an email chain from a couple of weeks ago when we were trying to get you on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And, several weeks ago before we had named the show.
Mm-hmm.
And our producer, Stevie, was just being funny in her email. And she said, yeah, we're calling it Oprah Raw. Remember that?
Mm-hmm. Loved Oprah Raw. Mm-hmm.
And then when we finally changed it to Ear Biscuits via email, you expressed disappointment that it wasn't called Oprah Raw.
I think that's natural, really.
Is Oprah Raw taken, or is that supposed to mean something? Sounds gross to me.
I mean,
if I'm going to dine on Oprah, I'd prefer her to be cooked.
I think it meant unfiltered, real Oprah Raw.
Yeah, Oprah Raw. It had nothing to do with cannibalism.
No.
Well, it's open to interpretation is what it seems to me.
Here's what we'll do for you. Today's episode, this week's episode, is still an Ear Biscuit, but there's a subtitle, and it is Oprah Raw.
Oh. Oprah Raw edition.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I add edition? We can call it Breathing Air.
I'm gonna go Breathing Air with Oprah Raw.
But then people are going to think that Oprah's going to be here, and I'm just saying she's not. I want to manage expectations.
She's a big fan. She's a big fan of
Ear Biscuits.
Yeah, she's talked about it in O Magazine a number of times in the podcast section.
I think she's just referring to putting a pair of nice warm biscuits on your ears.
Okay, yeah. That happens.
It's delicious.
Now, Hannah, we met in person the first time at a coffee shop. Second time we met.
Do you remember that?
Yeah. What a funny way to meet, but we totally did.
It was an arranged meeting.
It was. It was like a blind date, really.
Yeah.
And it went well.
I thought so, yeah.
What was that coffee shop? That was great.
It's a
nice coffee shop.
The coffee shop was Bricks and Scones.
Yes,
coffee
I remember.
Raw.
Right,
coffee
Bricks
raw.
and Scones.
Scone biscuits.
And I remember after, we had a great conversation. And I remember, Link and I are on our way home and discussing people that we have just met, as we often do, because we're pretty much always together. And we were both like, I like that Hannah Hart now.
Oh,
that Hannah Hart.
Oh,
she's a nice
person,
nice woman.
You guys, well, it's
nice woman.
Those
were our words.
That's really nice.
She's a nice woman.
It's so funny you say that because when I drove away from our first meeting,
first impressions. Give it to us straight.
I was talking to myself by myself aloud, as one is wont to do, and I said, Hannah, that Rhett Link. Them guys were, because I was talking to myself and I had no visual or verbal feedback to go off of.
You didn't say nice men. I was hoping you would be like, those were nice men.
What she just said that she said was, them's guys, wow. And then it kind of fizzled out.
Yeah, sometimes those car talks get real weird.
One's a brick and one's a scone.
No, come on. You got to give us the real first
impressions?
Yeah.
Well,
and it can't be like, well, he's tall. He's not as tall.
And Link has really great hair. They both got great hair. I was like, they were lovely.
Good.
Definitely not from California.
Yep.
Because you guys had a slower cadence.
Yeah.
You guys like to take your time with telling a story, and it's delicious. It's a great way to speak.
Oh, wow.
It's just a function of brain power.
Yeah. We're a little slow. That's all it is. Still, we walk slowly too.
Not fully charged.
Yeah, but when we met, actually, the show, the long form show,
the Mythical show,
you guys were just thinking. You guys were just thinking about that.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's over now. We've graffitied together.
Yeah.
But the second time that we met in person was the Christmas sweat shoot. I'm pretty sure that was our second meeting.
Yeah, and that was wonderful. And that was a phenomenal shoot. I wear those Christmas sweats.
Grace told us.
We heard about this.
She told you?
She was like, Hannah still wears them.
I do.
I'm disappointed you don't have them on. I mean, it's not that cool yet, I guess.
I sleep in those exact sweatpants.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, like, I will.
Is it a green pair?
I was going to say, I'll text you guys a picture later tonight. And then I just stopped myself.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
I'll text you a picture of me in my sweats.
Yeah.
Are they green or red?
I have a picture of me in my sweats.
Do you have both green and red still?
No, I just have the red small pants.
Oh. Okay.
We still have some more in a box.
Yeah, I think we've got the green somewhere.
That can be your parting gift.
Oh, from here today, an Ear Biscuits. Wow. Wow. It was a great shoot, though. Great video.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
We should sequelize that
Got
thing.
on Good Morning America.
I know. How funny is that,
You
right?
know you've made it.
They're like, who's that frumpy one? I'm like, it's me.
Well, I think because the picture that we decided to use as the thumbnail, you were wearing the extra large sweats, which were my sweats that actually fit me.
Mm-hmm. Do you still wear those sweats?
No, we keep them packaged. I'd like to separate the costuming from the actual wardrobe.
Oh, do you feel like your real life and your creative life bleed together far too often?
It's really just a tax issue.
Oh.
Wow, that's
That's a fair point.
My CPA told me that you can't wear those costumes.
you got to keep those sweats in a box.
You can't write them off if you wear them.
My CPA told me to do whatever I want and call everything an expense.
That's probably more fun.
Mm-hmm, it is. You wear that shirt in a video? Expense it. Done.
You can't do that.
I know, technically. But
Do you know that news anchors can't even expense their suits?
they have to buy their own
They
suits?
have to buy their own suits.
Yeah, seriously.
No way.
Yeah. Crazy.
Did you
That's
find
the
that
only
on?
reason I'm not a news anchor.
Wait, how'd you find out that
My brother
information?
told me this, and how he knows, I don't know. I think
He has a business degree.
he does have a business degree from a reputable institution.
That's like Business 101.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the extra credit question on the first quiz of Business 101.
Can a news anchor expense his suit?
Right.
Nope.
It sounds like business really suits him.
Ooh.
Oprah.
Wow.
All right. So take us back.
That was good.
Take us back to your birth. Give us the whole story.
Where was it? When was it?
I was born November 2nd, 1986. And it was in the Bay Area of California on the west coast of America on the planet Earth, which is the third planet in our solar system within the Milky Way.
There's a show about that.
Yeah.
Well, there was one.
Oh, yeah, Third Rock from the Sun.
There's also a song, a Joe Diffie song.
Oh, goodness. I hope you don't know that song.
I don't.
It's a country western tune from
Welcome to our
Third Rock from the Sun.
Oprah.
He also sang a song called Prop Me Up Beside the Jukebox When I Die.
Yeah.
So he wants to be like taxidermied?
He
Yes.
does.
Wow.
It's an admiral thing.
That's
Admiral?
admirable.
Admirable. Yeah, he's also in the military.
he wants to be dressed as a ship captain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and propped up next to
It's
the
a
jukebox.
sergeant thing to want to do with your life.
Bay Area.
Bay Area,
Hey,
yeah.
this
Is this like
Six.
San Francisco-ish?
Yeah.
That's typically, it's in the Bay Area.
Yeah, it was great. Grew up in California. I went to school at Berkeley. I studied Japanese literature and English literature.
You got to move slower than that.
We want to talk about like kindergarten.
Oh,
really?
Oh, yeah. This is what an ear biscuit is all about.
Oh,
Yeah, you're like, how did all of a sudden we're like spinning? You're in college. We're back here in the delivery
I'm
room.
so sorry. I should have explained. I came out of the womb and went to college.
Berkeley.
Oh, yeah. Okay. You were
Not
a prodigy.
for everyone, but it was for baby Hannah. No, let me think. Okay, back to birth. Oh, I was born with a double nuchal cord. You guys know what that is?
A what, a
you guys
what?
have kids. Double nuchal cord. It's where the umbilical cord is wrapped twice around your neck.
Oh, I thought it was like an
like a
extra
noose?
vocal cord.
So it's like every time you get pushed out, you're like, oh, God.
So you could have died.
Yeah, but so the doctor, ear biscuits, the doctor had to go in and cut the cord within my mother's body.
Oh.
And then I came out
So he took a
Risky.
pair of scissors inside of your mom.
and cut the cord so I could get born. Because I feet first, cord, neck, came out blue. I mean,
Really?
yeah, but I'm a fighter. / I don't know what baby Hannah was like.
So, so extraordinary circumstances in your birth.
So is that the type of thing that growing up, whenever something would happen, be it good or bad, that
I
your
attribute it
mom
to that.
or your mom or dad would hearken back to, you're a miracle baby.
Yep, miracle baby. That's right.
They would say that.
Not so much. However, I would say that in my head to myself.
I'm a miracle baby.
I would just say I'm a miracle. Just wake up in the morning.
I was born choking.
I was born choking around. Yuck, yuck, yuck.
But but your parents didn't say that because they could say that.
They could have, but I don't know. I don't think it really occurred to them.
Okay, and that's fair.
Yeah.
And what kind of house were you born into? Parents together, siblings?
Well, I was born into my parents were divorced before I was born. I had one older sister, she's alive. And yeah, our mom raised us for a long while, and then she got remarried and had another baby. That's my baby sister, who I love very, very much. And it was a good time.
So you grew up with just your mom and then a stepdad at some point. When did the stepdad come in?
I guess I was like 7, thereabouts. Yeah.
And this is all in the Bay Area.
Yeah, I never moved around.
Born and raised.
Born and raised in the Bay Area. Never moved around. Just kind of like hung out a lot.
What'd your mom do?
Well, she worked nights at a audio-visual recording thing where she would transcribe news stories. So she would go in from like 10 p.m. to like 5 a.m. and do transcription services.
So she would listen to
She would just watch
audio,
news and then just write out everything they said. And then she would come home and be like, you'll never believe what happened. I hate the news to this day. Why don't people tell good news? Like, it's not relevant to just hear there was like a stabbing in the park. Like, what can we benefit from by knowing that?
Well, if you hang on long enough, they do like something that's lighthearted towards the end.
Well,
That's
but
true.
you can also know not to go to that park.
That's true.
You know, if you don't want to get stabbed, don't go to that park.
Don't go to that park.
Pick another park.
But I just wish there was a website that was like goodnews.com. Or like every news story was like,
We have that reserved.
you know,
No, net. We have
Goodnews.net.
net reserved.
Yeah.
No one,
not .org?
No, we
It
don't.
might be .gov, actually.
Oh, no, it's not .gov since the shutdown.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
it's-
can't even go online, really.
Okay, so she would watch when you're watching the news and you see the closed captions happening, they're happening live, and someone like your mom is making that happen?
No. It's more like it was just a transcription service, you know. So it's like news, organizations. I imagine it. And remember, my understanding of this is a 4-year-old's understanding. Like, I have no idea. But I believe what the service was to give the studios transcriptions of the shows or the news for closed captioning purposes.
I mean, there's all types of reasons.
Yeah.
Even when we did our show on IFC,
Yeah.
they had people who would, I can't remember what their positions were, but they would type out everything that was said.
Yeah.
And then they could do a paper cut, meaning they could look at what was written down and they could say, edit it this way we need him to say this to manipulate the reality of the situation. That would happen a few times even on our show. Or we need to tell this story. We need someone to say this. So they could search for it and find it instead of just scrubbing through a whole bunch of footage. So I would imagine it could save the world. You never know. There's intelligence in that kind of stuff.
I love that perspective.
Now, is your mom does she still type?
No, she's unemployed.
Well, because we could use somebody to do this for Ear Biscuits.
Oh,
is what I was getting at. I mean, there's a lot of talking going on, and somebody needs to be writing it down. Don't you think, Link?
I mean,
it never occurred to me.
I remember being confused about my dad's job. We lived out here in California when I was a kid, and at the time, Pat Sajak was a weatherman.
Oh.
Before Wheel of Fortune, early 80s.
Had to buy his own suits.
Yeah, he did. He expensed no suits.
Interestingly enough, weathermen, free suits.
Oh, yeah. It's a
companies
loophole. It's
Don't
an old
say it.
meteorological loophole.
Can't BS about something that important here. I got to call you out on that.
Okay, there you go.
I remember distinctly watching Pat Sajak deliver the weather one day and being 100% convinced that it was my father.
Well,
what? He looks
Rhett,
nothing like
maybe.
your dad.
Did you feel it in your heart?
I was like 4 years old and I remember thinking, Mom, Dad's on television. Dad's doing the weather. And I was totally convinced that it was him, but it was Pat Sajak.
But maybe Pat Sajak, was your mom like, he's not the father you have?
She got this really guilty look.
Yeah.
Well, that might explain a lot.
Yeah, right? Pat Sajak.
Pat Sajak is my dad.
Man,
Okay.
I want to look at a picture of Pat Sajak so bad right now.
He's
We
a
don't
very
look at
short man,
He is.
which makes this highly unlikely.
Right, that's true. Okay, so and your sister is how much younger than you?
I have 2 sisters. I have an older one who's 3 years older than me, and a younger one who is 11 years younger than me.
Okay, so when you were a kid, it was you and your older sister and your mom. 3 women against the world. So, I mean, tell us about that.
Well, I really liked books a lot. I think that, like, when you have a single mom, you don't really, got a lot to do. So, fortunately, though, the house was, filled with books. So, I would read a lot of books.
Would you transcribe them?
Would I transcribe? I'd be like, oh, I gotta do it. No, I just read them. She had, a lot of Encyclopedia Britannicas. Do you remember when they would
really?
sell, the full
sure,
sets of
yeah.
Encyclopedia?
Well, we had those, definitely.
You could buy the shelf with them.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Really?
Yeah.
To
when
hold
you
them?
buy that many books, you got to buy the shelf too. They would throw that in for to sweeten the deal.
No way.
Well, if you knew how to negotiate.
Oh.
So you would read all of you would read the encyclopedia, but your mom worked nights. So was she like sleeping during the day? Was it like?
No, she was out usually. She spent a lot of time out. But I would,
And you were reading.
Yeah, I like to read. I like to read a lot. And I also like to, bookworm. And I also like to take a lot of walks. I like to walk around the neighborhood, just make up adventures.
We're talking grade school, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Just like that sort of thing. One time, me and my friends climbed to the roof of the elementary school and we threw rocks at cars
You're kidding me.
that were driving by. And only as an adult do I realize how truly dangerous and stupid that was. But at the time, I was like, this is fun. But no, that was bad. One time.
Well, hold on. We're going to have to stop you there because we did exactly the same thing. In fact, we've told this story on Good Mythical Morning, but the last time I was spanked,
I think you were 13.
I was 14.
14?
Now listen, I wasn't spanked. I was spanked a lot as like a young kid, and then it became very intermittent. But then
14?
I was 14, and I had
You're a tall guy. How tall were you at 14?
When I was 14, I was 6'4".
How
and
did
my
they spank
dad
you?
was 5'9". Remember, he looks like Pat Sajak.
It's convenient because all he had to do was tell you to bend over the back of the couch and he spanked you.
And Link and I got caught throwing rocks at cars on top of the business school. Long story, we got caught by Leonard Johnson at the business school.
That jerk.
Who told...
your brother about the suits later in life.
Exactly. He told the security, Campbell Security about that, who told my dad, and then my dad called me in there, and he's like, so what'd you do today?
He didn't even have you cut a switch or anything?
Nope. Belt. And he was like, no, this, we don't do this anymore, but I have no choice. And I
have no choice.
Right there on the keister. You know what? I never threw rocks at cars again.
I think for the record, he probably did have a choice. But
The belt, yeah. Oh, sorry, guys. I just
who is that?
You can take that. That's
So
fine.
busy, yeah.
Might be Pat Sajak.
I mean, just telling to be like, my son.
Okay, so you, I mean, it's a common thing apparently. Lots of kids do it, throw rocks at cars. Everybody has
guess
to
so.
have that experience.
Yeah.
But did you get punished?
No.
You didn't get spanked?
No, not really. I felt guilty. I felt terrible. One of the rocks went through a window at the school when school started again. And remember, this was second grade, first or second, it's second grade, maybe.
Oh, you weren't 14.
No. But that's something I'll never forget. The thing you just told me. No, but
Did you get spanked? Did you get in trouble?
Yeah. I mean, but not for stuff like that. Just other things.
Oh, you got spanked as a child too.
Yeah, but yeah, but so I remember though, I felt so bad about throwing the rock through the window or the rock hitting the window that when school started, everybody's like, oh my God, rock, window, la la. I remember going to my teacher and just being like, it was me. And she was like, no, it wasn't. And I was like, it was me. I did it. I did it over the weekend. I lived down the block.
Oh gosh.
She was like, Hannah, please. Like, it wasn't you. I appreciate you trying to cover for your friend.
Wow.
But I know it wasn't you. I just know you. And I was like,
ooh,
this is the worst feeling in the world. I mean, like, how do you go? Like, anyway, so.
You confessed and.
It was rejected.
That can't be you.
It's not you. And then you're like, wait, who am I?
So you had a reputation as being a good kid.
Yeah.
And you were a kid that would, you felt guilty and you would confess something like that.
Oh, I had a good heart. Good
so
kid.
that characterized your youth.
Yeah, probably.
It wasn't one of rebellion and testing the limits.
Definitely not a rebellious child. I was definitely I mean, like, I would, like, help out the janitor after school and stuff. Like, I just wanted to, like, do stuff. I just like people. I just really like being with people. You know? I think people are interesting.
Did you help the janitor put the sawdust on the vomit?
From kids puking?
They did that all the time in our school.
Yeah.
Sawdust?
That's stuff.
Every other day there would be a pile of sawdust out there. You know, which is interesting.
It soaks it up.
You were 14 when last time you puked and sawdust got used to clean up.
Mr. Leon was our janitor, and he would sawdust all kinds of stuff, but especially vomit. Why didn't he just clean it up?
Poor Mr.
Sawdust?
Leon only had one hand. And we never helped him out. You make me feel bad. I never helped him clean up vomit. The guy had one hand.
He had two hands when we started school. Remember, you remember what happened,
Are
don't
you serious?
No.
Yes. You don't know the story about Mr. Leon? Mr. Leon
Cleaning up vomit?
No. Mr. Leon
was putting woods in the wood chipper.
He was changing the bulbs, the footlights on the school stage, in the auditorium. He was changing the footlights, and one broke or one was hot or something. He got burned. It was a very mild thing. He did not get it checked out. It got infected, and they cut his hand off. This was like 5th grade, man, because we had a 2-handed janitor, and then he became a 1-handed janitor. And he never slowed down.
By the way, that seems like a little rash.
Well, you mean it was an overreaction? No, it was a bad infection. It was like, he didn't get it. Kids, if you get an infection, get it taken care of. That's the moral of that story. And if you vomit, throw sawdust on it. Also, if you can find any.
It turns out when people tell you to air out a wound, don't. Keep it covered. It'll heal faster.
That's right.
We've established this.
Learned that recently.
Yeah, I told him not to wear the Band-Aid, and turns out he's right. Look at it now. We're good to go.
Yeah, but aren't scars kind of cool? Like when stuff scars, you're like, that's cool. That's cool.
I don't see any scars on you.
I have one right here on my hand. I got one on my knee. I got one in this ear.
In the ear?
Mm-hmm. I just ran into a table when I was really little. Just like the corner of a table. I was just so excited. I was also very excited as a kid. I'm still a very excited adult. And I just hit the corner. It was the first time I ever got stitches, and I totally fainted. 100%.
Well, just the thought of it makes me want to faint.
Isn't that awful?
Oh, yeah.
An ear wound?
An ear wound.
On ear biscuits.
Ear wounds?
Yeah.
Ear biscuits.
Blood on a biscuit. I'm not interested in that.
Oh.
So give us some more formidable. I don't know what the right word is. Formative. That's the word.
Yeah.
Formative points in your life. We're talking like the grade school, middle school, high school years. You know, we're still pre-Berkeley here.
Oh yeah. Well, my dad is a preacher, and we saw him.
Your real dad or your stepdad?
My real dad.
Okay, so your mom and your dad, they divorced before you were born, and he's a preacher. What type of preacher are we talking?
Jehovah's Witness.
Jehovah's Witness?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So he doesn't celebrate birthdays?
Mm-mm.
Why not? I don't.
The idea...
I made a comment on a Good Mythical Morning, and then I got reprimanded by people who said I should know, and so school me.
Well, from what I recall, the idea is that it's kind of like... I always was very confused by this because I was like, if we're God's creatures or as God's creatures, isn't the celebration of a birth one of the most sacred things? But John the Baptist got his head cut off as a birthday present. So the witnesses have taken that to be like celebration of birthdays is bad.
I follow the logic there.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's got their thing. Just be good. Just be nice people. Practice whatever religion you want.
So, what was your relationship like with your dad? Did you have visitation growing up? What was the arrangement?
Yeah, we had visitation. Saw him, I guess, like 4 days. We saw him like 4 days a month and 2 weeks in summer. And it was always like, it was so the opposite of the regular life because it was like, get in dresses, get really clean, like go to, like 6 church things a weekend. Now we're going door to door. And then after we're done going door to door, we're going to go to the church barbecue. And then after we're done doing that, we're going to go, but it's actually not called the church. It's called the Kingdom Hall. And
there's no windows. There's a few windows.
Yeah.
Very small.
Yeah, very small. Exactly. It's called the Kingdom Hall, not a church. And they're called meetings, not services.
Okay.
So this being in a Jehovah's Witness family, this is quite a commitment. This is a big part of your life. So I would assume that at that time your mom was also a part of this, or was she just kind of saying, okay, well, your dad's doing this, and we're kind of just going to kind of ride along?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I was never a Jehovah's Witness. I mean, it was just like my dad.
And so when he left, was your mom like, okay, we're not going to do that anymore. Let's not go to the Kingdom Hall anymore? Yeah,
she is just very theological. She believes in like, history and like all religion and spirituality and Christianity. And she's got a lot of different beliefs, very wide variety. But yeah, I got no problem with Jehovah's Witnesses. Every religion to each his own. My only logic is like, just be like nice to each other, just like, I think that's what really matters. And that's what Jesus would want.
What was your observation? I mean, did you go to a church with your mom? What was your observation visiting your dad and I guess having the label of Jehovah's Witness and being an outsider to that, you not being a Jehovah's Witness? What was your observation there, and then growing up with your mom, how you were raised there?
it just seemed so different. It just seemed so, and obviously, this has nothing to do with the religion at large, but like it just felt very superficial. You know what I mean? Like my dad and his stepmom were them, and it was very like Stepford feeling when we would go and visit them. Mm-hmm. And like it was just a very interesting juxtaposition. Like they had everything, and like they had like food and everything was like clean and yada yada yada, but it didn't feel like home. Whereas like home felt like, sure it wasn't perfect, but it was real. I guess in a weird way. Yeah.
I mean, I grew up as a young kid. I didn't grow up with my dad, so I had visitation with my dad. I remember every other weekend for a while. Mm-hmm. And I mean, religion wasn't that different between my mom and my dad. Mm-hmm. They both were church-going Christian people. But mm-hmm. I mean, I can certainly relate to that part about even not feeling like, oh, this is going to see my dad. It wasn't home. It was a different thing. When you're that young, it's just something you just kind of plug into
and it would just be like, I just remember feeling so bummed out if like a friend was having a birthday party one weekend, or like there was an opportunity to like see a movie or like go on a school trip, and like that opportunity became available, but it was a dad weekend. I was like, no.
Right.
Which is like, no fault of his, but I was always, I just never wanted to go.
And there was sounds like there was a lot of religious obligations every time you were there. We got to dress this way. We got to go here. We got to do this. This is
we're waking up at like 5:30, 6 a.m. We're going to go to this thing. Like, brutal. Just like they have a thing called the district convention, which is like 12 hours of service. And it happens like 1 or 2 weekends a year. And I remember if we had a dad visit on the district convention, I was like, I would lay awake for like weeks knowing that it was coming. It's brutal. Imagine being a kid. And I now know why this was so like just so hard. Like having to go for me as a kid and sit still and just be preached at for 12 hours, I couldn't doodle. I couldn't even write my own like stories. I had to sit and literally just sit and listen and follow along in the book. It was the most pain, it was hell. It was so hard.
You just couldn't sit there and like snicker at each other like Link and I did in the balcony at our little church.
No snickering, no falling asleep. So you know that feeling where you're so understimulated that you're just like, you are like literally just pulling your eyes up to stay awake. Mm-hmm. No snickering, no falling asleep, no doing something else, like no coloring, no drawing, no anything. Just listen. And it was,
And that was until what age?
17.
Oh, really?
Oh, okay.
So you and your sister, who's a little bit older, did that draw the two of you closer, kind of?
Oh, yeah, no, my big sister and I, we're good. We're solid. Yeah, it was just like, I just would never do that to any child. Like, I barely believe in education the way we do it. I'm like, kids are going to get curious about things at different times in their life. Like, maybe this kid wants to learn math right now. Great, let them learn math. Later, they'll want to learn this, Like, I think that we should really just, like, have structure but not control. It's like, okay, we're going to learn from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., but what you learn, what you're curious about is entirely up to you, But you are going to be, like, progressing in some way.
Right.
So did you have a reaction that even at that age you were like, I'm going to chuck this whole religious thing?
No, I mean, like the word, I think fortunately, like my mom's opinion and openness, I guess, really saved my view of spirituality and view of people's relationships with God. I think that if I only had the Jehovah's Witness perspective, I would 100% be like, forget that. Mm-hmm. But because I also had my mom who's like, well, Judaism believes this, Buddhism believes this, let's watch history of the Bible. Like, oh, I got this great documentary from the library. Like, let's watch this. Like, just a very like rich, multicultural experience with spirituality and God and what people believe. So that made me feel connected to that.
Was that something that was developing like, as you were a teenager, you're in high school, and you're in this environment? Was it just like, I just don't know about this stuff that we're doing that seems like rote, seems like obligation? Were you kind of beginning to think that this there's got to be something other than this, or was it after he left and was your mom having these influences and these ideas all along?
All along. I mean, I have no recollection of them being in the same room, you know?
Okay.
So like they were, like I really don't have any memory of them being together, but I like prayed every night as a kid. And I still take a moment before I eat, and before I go to sleep to just be grateful, because I think that that's really important,
Mm-hmm.
Like those are still patterns that like I maintain.
So what was high school like for you?
High school was good. I got my first job, which I liked. I worked at an ice cream shop.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then
You were a scooper and a sample giver?
Mm-hmm. Scooper sample giver. I called everybody sweetie.
Soft serve?
No.
Dip.
Yep.
We're talking
dip.
Baskin Robbins or what?
It was Preston's in Burlingame, California, which is a locally owned, small business, family owned business, blah, blah, blah. And it'd been there forever, and it was great. And I also worked at a video store, and that was great. And
those are two classic jobs that
classic
you have.
teenage jobs,
I never
right?
had a classic job.
Never. What was your first teenage job?
It was cleaning out underneath houses.
Oof.
I cleaned out underneath houses a little bit too.
When the construction people get through building the house, when they get through, they have used the foundation of the house as a trash can.
Oh,
and
really?
Then they send a kid underneath there to clean it all out and to put plastic under there. And as I've already established, I'm a pretty big guy. I was already pretty big, and I'm going to their houses worrying about snakes and cups with redneck tobacco juice in them.
Oof.
Yeah, that was my first job.
Ooh.
I think that was my first. That was one of my high school jobs. Yeah,
That was gross.
but I wasn't working with ice cream. That's
No.
for sure.
Yeah.
Unless it was expired and it was in a little container underneath the house.
Oh.
I mowed grass.
Yeah?
I loved it. I would go back to that right now in an instant.
I'm not surprised by that, actually. I see you as somebody that would really enjoy just the routine, order, and the structure.
I love the order.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the
Going through
it level.
Pair of nose hair trimmers, making sure it's all.
Well,
okay.
I had a riding lawnmower, Hannah.
Well, I mean, But
I remember that. I have a memory of you riding a lawnmower down the road in Lillington, from one house to another. Is that true? Did that happen?
Yeah, I did. I would drive the lawnmower across Lillington, across major streets to go to houses that I had to mow. Because that was easier than putting it on a trailer and then driving. I didn't have my license yet.
This is before lawnmower racing.
Did you pick up a lot of chicks on your lawnmower?
The ladies around Lillington loved the guy with the lawnmower.
Well, I mean, you were easy to keep up with. The girls could just walk right next to you the whole time.
That's a man with ambition. They could tell.
Okay, so
keep it level.
Ice cream and video store.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, ice cream and video store. I raised my little sister a bunch. I was a yearbook. I did the yearbook and newspaper, publication stuff.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm. I thought I was going to be a journalist or a teacher with the majority of my life, but then I pursued translation.
So you were very plugged in, very involved.
Not with the school. I mean, I was plugged in and involved into it was easy. Everybody knew me, and so it was easy to get in and get out of what I wanted. So it's during journalism or doing yearbook, it was easy. I could just walk into the room and be like, "Hi, I need this picture. Thanks, guys. Bye." I mean, it was easy to take care of, and then I'd leave school, and then I would go work. Mm-hmm.
So you thought you wanted to be a journalist at the time?
I did, or a teacher.
And when you decided to go to Berkeley, was that to pursue that career?
Well, I went into Cal. It's actually really funny. I first didn't plan on going to college and then was encouraged by my guidance counselor to go to college. So I applied to a bunch of schools, and Berkeley was my reach school. They were like, well, you should apply to Berkeley, blah, 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 blah. I got rejected from every single school I applied to except for Berkeley, who sent a letter, and California Public School or California Public University, they don't do this, asking for 2 letters of recommendation, and it was a 13 essay questionnaire. It was part of the Equal Opportunities program, and I did it, and then I got into Berkeley, and
So what was your equal opportunity?
Well,
You're a white girl.
yeah, but I grew up in poverty, and my mom is schizophrenic.
Okay.
So
you left that part out.
Yeah.
Your mom is schizophrenic?
Yeah. So I got emancipated when I was 15, and my little sister went to foster care.
Wow.
Yeah. So there was a good chunk of stuff that helped. I had terrible grades, but great test results, terrible grades. I wasn't going to do homework.
My goodness. So when you said a few minutes ago that you raised your little sister, you literally meant that because your mom was diagnosed and I mean, can you tell us more about that? How did that happen?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like I want people I think at some point in my life, I'd like to speak, at length about mental health stigma. With an illness like schizophrenia, it's a psychosis, so it's not like a sociopathic illness, which is kind of like, people do bad things, but like a psychotic illness. As we describe people like, oh, that guy's psychotic. He's not actually psychotic. Like, that's a bad guy. Psychotic means like voices, images, hallucinations, like multiple reality. Like, that's psychotic, So, yeah. What was your question?
You were because your mom was struggling with this illness, you had to kind of step in and raise your sister who was 11 years younger.
What led up to that point? I mean, what does that mean exactly? Did she have to go get treatment somewhere? How did that work?
Things would have been. I think things would have been really different if she had gotten treatment. But no, she just schizophrenic. Just there's a lot of people who are unmedicated, mentally ill.
So she was in the house. She was working. She was there, but she wasn't able to function as mom.
She wasn't really able. She wasn't able to do a lot of things. She wasn't able to do a lot of jobs. And she had she got a guy that came and helped out with bills and stuff, but she just got worse as she got older, so it went from you're quirky and weird and everything seems weird, but I guess that's cool. We're just different. And then as I got older and when Maggie was born, as my little sister, it was wow, we're not different. Something's wrong, And I remember being 11 and my mom telling my sister and I that she got pregnant. And I remember being you need to have an abortion because we can't have a child in this house. What are you going to do with a baby? How are we, how are we going to have a baby? Then she had the baby and that was the best thing that ever happened to me. Maggie would totally saved my life. I 100% could have become that kid that does drugs and runs away from home and all that stuff. But Maggie was this smiling, loving baby. I mean, you guys have kids, all you have to do for a baby is love it. And it's loves you back. And then they get older and then you more responsibilities. But it was a good, pure thing,
So how did your mom's illness kind of manifest itself that, you would see it manifest itself at a point where that's what you said when you found out she was pregnant. And that brought you to a point where your life without Maggie could have gone off the deep end is what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think that the point where everything changed was probably when I was 15 or 16. And my older sister had been peace, I'm going to college. And then, like I said, it's an illness that gets worse with age. What
was happening?
Just crazy stuff. So anyway, I just didn't want Maggie. I just couldn't picture Maggie being there alone. And then the closer I got to 18, it was well, either I'm just going to take her or, next time the cops come, I'm not going to lie. And I'll be actually, things are terrible, So, yeah.
So there was a point in which you saw the situation, you saw what was happening, and you were I've got to sort of take control here. I'm going to emancipate myself. I'm going to get my little sister into foster care.
A chance. Foster care, by the way, is a really fascinating system. And there's a lot of deeply flawed parts of it. Maggie was in the state foster care system for only 3 weeks before I had a good reputation, in my hometown, before a family volunteered to adopt her or take her in. And then later in life, they adopted her and she's been living there for the last, I don't know, how old am I? 26? Yeah.
How old was she at the time?
4.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, but I mean, it's, there's a lot of things that I want to do to help out with this stuff. Eventually it's there's so many things that you could change to make things better. And it just turns out money's the only thing you need. So it's I'd love to either advocate for or start a foundation that kind of provides services to those who do foster care. And I'm not talking about monetary services because I don't think that doesn't help. That doesn't work because then people are give me kids so I get checks. But services maybe they go and have their own counseling, or they go and have their own job security training. Give these people skills and give them their shot at life so that when they're fostering kids, it's almost like a shot for self-improvement.
Right. So your experience as going through that has sort of given you a mission of sorts.
Yeah, I hope so.
And is this something that now that you are the Hannah Hart that we all know and, the YouTube celebrity Hannah Hart.
Who loves to have makeup on her face.
That's right.
Check out youtube.com/Harto, Halloween double twin Tumblr tag. I don't even
You're
know.
figuring out what to title it
Yeah,
now.
I have no idea what to title it.
Yeah, you said different things, by
We
the
did.
way. You did not
I'm going to have
repeat her
like
correctly.
4 title cards.
Sorry.
Everything's going to be a freeze frame of a title card. Freeze frame title card.
You see this as, because obviously part of your brand is sort of, with your recent tour, a part of your brand is sort of giving back to people and bringing people together.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very evident. Like, I know that you've done a lot of your gatherings at like soup kitchens and volunteering for people. When did that become a part of your like identity and your brand?
Well, it didn't become a part of my identity until I got security, I guess, Like, it was like the channel was doing well and I was successful and like I could support like my loved ones. And then I just felt like entertainment felt so hollow. So then it was like, wow, like actually I'm on the side of privilege now. Like I can give back. And I guess that's kind of what I try and say when we were doing the meetups and stuff like that. And arguably, by the way, like I'm not at all perfect. Like I don't go to a soup kitchen every week. Like I'm not, I try and like donate money, but like, I'm not like I'm not 100% on the time, all the time, blah, 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 blah. I don't want to make myself out to be that way because, I'm human and blah, blah, blah. But I do think that one way of looking at donating, charity, volunteer work is to think that it's not a guilt, it's not an obligation, but it's more like a privilege. Like you're lucky. You're lucky enough to do
You're
that.
able to give back.
Yeah, not like you're able, so you should. Like people push back against that so hard, but more like, hey, if you're sitting at home depressed or if you're feeling like your life is empty or blah, 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 like go outside for 2 hours, meet a bunch of strangers and like sort cans or something. And it'll make you feel good. So if you need a selfish way to justify something, like a not guilt way, like a selfish way, like go do it because it's going to make you feel good.
Well, when we found out that you were doing your meetups at soup kitchens and shelters and that kind of thing, we thought back to the fact that we had crossed the country and did a bunch of meetups at rest stops.
Which is,
It felt pretty lame.
I felt like we broke up a lot of shady activity.
Yeah, there you go.
yeah, all
By being there.
You guys brought a lot of positive energy into the rest stops.
Not a lot of positive energy in a rest stop before us.
It was really hard, though, to get people to let us into we went to food banks. We went to like 2 soup kitchens, but we went to a bunch of food banks because of the brand My Drunk Kitchen. People push back against that so hard.
They're like, you gonna come here and get drunk?
Yep. Yeah, they're like, so what with this My Drunk Kitchen girl? And like we have the support of some major charitable organizations helping us get in touch with good people. But I can't actually say their names or be like front facing about their support because they as a public entity also can't be affiliated with My Drunk Kitchen. But I'm like, okay, sure, whatever. I get it.
Right.
Yeah.
So the work is still getting done. I was going to ask, so how is Maggie? What's the update there?
She's great. 16, sassy, has a great Tumblr. She's a feminist. She's great. Maggie's great. She's lovely. Yeah, she's just definitely 16. Sassy pants.
And what about your mom? Do you keep in touch? What happened there?
Yeah, she was homeless for a while, but then I was able to support her. So I support her now. She's got a place that she stays at, and I try and see her when I can. Yeah.
And then so going back to college, you went to Berkeley. Kind of, you made a decision that my life is going to continue on this trajectory.
Yeah. I mean, I really just honestly, before all this YouTube stuff, my number one focus was just job security, money, just trying to figure out how to like do it.
So what were you thinking?
Yeah.
What were you thinking in terms of major and things like that?
Well, so I went in for communications, I was like, perfect, marketing, business, something like that. And then I ended up doing literature because I felt like if you go after a pure business degree or a pure marketing degree, you're not gaining anything to bring to the table. So it seemed like literature or philosophy or history, like you're actually learning things that you can put in your brain to like make different connections to create things, So I studied literature and then I was like, well, that's not going to be enough. I should study an Asian language because Asian languages are big, and also being an interpreter, being a translator, that's something that's not going to really disappear. So I studied Japanese, was able to like go to Japan. Like I have been super blessed, like super, super duper blessed.
All right, drop some Japanese science on us, meaning
science.
Language. Drop the science. That's a rap terminology for like speak something awesome.
Mizu o nondeimasu. I'm drinking water.
So
ですね.
And it tastes good. Is that what you just said?
Yeah.
I was translating.
It's
Say something
filtered.
else.
味はいい. It tastes good.
Oh,
Yeah.
And what else? Can you
It's
compliment
my party
me?
trick.
'Cause
Link さんはとってもかっこいいだと思う. I said, you're like super cool, I think.
No, you said my nipples were hard. They're not. I saw you looking down there.
I was giving
You
you,
were
I was
looking-
giving you a once over.
You were looking at my nipples.
I was trying to find the nips.
you know those Japanese people.
Looking for damn nips. Yeah.
So you became. So you mastered the Japanese language. And
I did not.
What?
I couldn't say master. I mean, like it's.
You just sounded like.
Yeah, it sounded pretty awesome
I
to
can
me.
like right now. I'm like conversational at best. You know.
Is there a little Tokyo here in town? There is not. Is there?
There is a little Tokyo. It's very little. It's like a mall.
Okay, so you don't like go there and like, hey, I got to practice, y'all.
No, not really,
In
because it's
Japanese,
like
of course.
my job is to be a YouTuber now. You know.
Give us give us the
You want me to speak in
transition.
YouTube? Subscribe to my channel, youtube.com/Harto.
So how did you go from studying and then becoming a translator to being a YouTuber?
I was living in New York. I had moved from San Francisco to New York for the company I was working for. I was doing proofreading at that company, which is like white collar mining. You know, it's like I would have one patent document here and one patent document here. This is English, this is the other language, and just have to kind of go through looking for errors, making sure every sentence was in. I mean, like, and it would even be for languages I didn't speak, like German, just like making sure it says like slot A into slot B, A into B. Yes. Or whatever.
That's Japanese.
That's Japanese.
That was German. No, that was German.
That's the German.
Oh.
Then my older sister Naomi bought me that laptop, the MacBook. It was a white, whatever the generation, the first like white MacBook with a webcam. Like
And now we're in story territory. This is the one everyone gets you to tell.
Yep,
I'm sure.
This is it.
But I've got to hear it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
indulge us.
For sure.
Give us the white MacBook from my sister's story.
Yep, my sister bought
But
me
give
this.
us the juicy details that you don't give to like the journalists.
That's right.
Okay. All right. So I was at her apartment cat sitting, and then I was video chatting with a friend back home because it was so cool to have video chat. The year was 2011. And I don't know, I used to, my friend missed me. I was like, I miss when you would like get drunk and cook, man. And I was like, dude, I'll do that for you right now. And she was like feeling low. So then I was like, I'll make you a video. So I made her my drunk kitchen.
So you ended the iChat and then you said,
yeah, I said, hold on. So I like ended it, put up iMovie, hit like import from camera, and then just recorded like 20 minutes or 25 minutes. I'm a lightweight. I'm like a 2-drink drunk, 3-drink drunk to this day. And then chopped it up on iMovie and then put it up on YouTube and then sent it to Hannah Gelb, which is her name. And then
you put it on YouTube, public, but why would anyone see it?
Who cares? What's
So
YouTube?
you legitimately used YouTube for what I think it was
intended for.
Yeah. It was, hey, I've got a video and I want you to see it.
Yep.
And this is how I'm going to do it.
Yep. Exactly. So like I did that and I sent it to her and she, put it up on Facebook and all of her friends and all my friends, everybody's like, this is so funny. Share. I mean, it wasn't even that big of a quote unquote viral video. Like it was like, it like maybe got to like a couple 100,000 or like 700,000. I actually don't have any idea. But I noticed like people were commenting. I was like, where's episode 2? This is my new favorite show on YouTube.
Where's episode 2?
Right. And I was like, what are they talking about? So then I went into like the YouTube K-hole and was like...
So you were not a YouTube consumer. Is that what you're saying? You didn't watch other YouTubers and aspire to be that. YouTube was not that to you.
The first time I heard of Epic Mealtime was in the comments of that video.
Okay.
Somebody's like, this bitch is ripping off Epic Mealtime. And I was like, Epic what? Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
They wanted episode 2, and then your response was...
Like 3 weeks later, on a random day, I put up another one, and then a month after... I mean, I have no idea the periods of time in between. Certainly wasn't on a schedule, certainly didn't...
But if we go back on your channel, My Harto...
Yeah.
It's all there.
It's all there.
And sort by date, the first one is the first one.
Yeah, but I've changed the title, added, like, annotations like stay tubed and like subscribe and like all that stuff now. Mm-hmm. And it was originally called My Drunk Kitchen, but now it's called My Drunk Kitchen Episode 1, Butter Your
Right.
Yes.
So you did 2 more. You were
I
just
did,
like,
2, and then 3 was supposed to be the last one. And then I just don't know what compelled. I just didn't stop. I don't know. It just was fun. It was like such an outlet. And then, it's like money starts coming in because you're advertising. And then, so I quit my translation job, and not because I was so lucrative, obviously not, but then I just got rid of my apartment, cut all my expenses, and couch surfed so I could just use all my money for the things I needed to put it towards. And then I just lived on couches for a while until I moved to LA.
Which was when?
January 2012.
Okay.
Crazy.
Wow, so we're coming up on 2 years.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah, I just passed 2 years. March 2013 was the second year.
Oh.
Yeah. And the videos have like super improved. I just shot a video recently with 2 cameras rolling.
Here in our studio, featuring us
Yep.
putting Halloween paint on your face.
And it turned out pretty well.
I think it did.
I think it did.
My side of the face was excellent.
I just really liked, I don't know, it was more than, I was so pleased, I feel like we should revisit the graffiti thing, maybe.
Oh, we could do that. Now, all right, so let's get into this. Your sexuality is a big part of your brand.
Talking about nipples.
You are
talking about homos.
You are a heterosexual.
No, Link, I'm sorry.
Am I getting the terminology wrong?
I prefer the term girl kisser.
Okay.
All right.
Girl kisser.
I've heard that. I've seen that on a t-shirt.
Do you sell that t-shirt?
I should.
You should think about it.
I know.
So
does District Line still sell things?
Yeah, let's not talk about that. No. Okay, so there was a point at which you decided to be open about your sexuality on your channel. And I don't remember all the details of those videos, but I did watch those. And I remember
people really got attached to the Coming Out Chapter 1 video.
Right, yeah. So it was there were some chapters in this.
I still post chapters. When marriage passed, I put Coming Out Chapter 5 marriage, and I was like, marriage is about partnership, it's about trust. And I just talked about my personal beliefs in marriage.
And so I remember one of the things, I'm paraphrasing here, but it was, you said something to the effect of, I never really felt the need to come out, and this isn't some big deal that I feel like I needed to come out and like confess to you guys that I'm a lesbian. But it was more like, I kind of feel like maybe I have a responsibility to do that, so I'll do it. Maybe it'll. Yeah,
you remember when Anderson Cooper came out? And everybody, like, it's weird.
I think it was on episode 2 of The Mole.
Yeah.
He hosted that, right?
No way, really?
The reality show, competition show, The Mole. He was the host of that.
Really?
I love
that was his
show.
first big gig.
I had no idea.
He came out
I gotta go back and look that up.
But no one remembers it.
His hair was black at the time. That was,
no.
that was.
Is this all true?
No. Everything except his hair being black and him coming out on.
And also the name of the show was not The Mole as a Whole. No, so as you remember when Anderson Cooper came out, he was just like, guys, it's not like I was hiding it. It's just not like my job isn't to be like gay news guy. It's just news guy. You know what I mean? And so like that's kind of the way I feel about it, sexuality in general. It's changing a little bit as I feel more and more responsible for the LGBT community, because it's like, because I happen to be gay, I am inherently a role model, since role models are so few and far between, because there's not so it's like out and like pride and stuff like that. But like in terms of my personality, I've never felt like, since coming to the crippling realization that I was gay, which was awful, by the way.
Well, yeah, I want to go into
totally
that.
Don't want to be gay.
I almost want to put a thumbtack here.
Not a pin.
And is it supposed to be a pin?
It could be a push
pin. Let's put a push pin.
An unfurled paperclip.
Can you give us the whole backstory? Just, in any way you want to, in terms of the sexual backstory. Because I do think the conclusion
my
is
first album.
I am very interested about you coming to grips with being a role model and being someone
but first, let's hear it. Let's hear the story. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I was in college, sophomore year of college, and I was in Japanese class, and this girl behind me, just like complimented my jacket, and I was like, oh yeah, thanks. And then we became like best friends. She was straight, or is straight. She's married, has a baby now. And I just realized like 3 weeks in, I was like, oh my God, like I have like a crush on this girl. And like, given also, by the way, like I had boyfriends in high school. I always just attributed due to the circumstances of my life, I was like, I must really not be able to fall in love with people. Maybe that's like a weird emotional thing. I've got like a block. I must not be able to fall in love because I've never fallen in love. And like, I don't really like any of my boyfriends. I mean, they're great friends and they're really attractive guys. Like, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? And I was so confused. And obviously homosexuality was not accepted in either of my households, either of them, not even a little bit. My dad's dad, my grandpa is gay. Or was gay. And so I think that's another big thing that was like super, like a big deal for my dad.
Did you always know that? Or did you find that out later?
Like when I was like 9 and then it was like a big deal. But it was like he had like 2 wives and like 6 kids or 5 kids. And he really, tried to do it. And then just finally he was like 65 and he's like, guys, I'm gay. I'm sorry. I'm just gay. I'm sorry.
I had 2 wives at once.
I know.
Tried twice.
I tried so hard, So anyway, I just always thought that I just couldn't fall in love, that sort of thing. And I actually remember spring of my freshman year, fall of my sophomore year, praying like, and I would go to like Christian campus events and I remember praying, being like, let me fall in love. Like, let me find somebody to fall in love with and like have that experience and like feel love. And then sophomore year, spring, so fall, I, prayed for that and wanted to fall in love. And then sophomore year, the first day of the first semester, in the spring, I met the girl. Mm-hmm. And then
the girl that complimented
the jacket.
Your jacket.
Yeah. And then, we became like super, super close friends. And then, at that point I had gay friends for the first time in my life. And they're like, you talk about this girl like constantly. And it was always kind of a joke. Like I'd always joke around. I'm like, yeah, I'm secretly gay. Ha ha ha. Which is not uncommon for a lot of people who end up being gay. So anyway, long story short, I was kind of like, maybe I have a crush on her. You know what? I'm going to nip this in the bud. I'm just going to tell her. And then she's going to be like, ew, gross, get away from me forever. And I will never have to think this thought or have this feeling ever again. I told her and she was like, oh my God, I think I have a crush on you. This is crazy. So we went to a party and that night we made out. And I just remember thinking like when we were like making out, I remember being like, wow, this is so easy. And
I'm gay.
Yeah, but honestly, I had my entire first relationship, fell in love with the first time, whole thing, got my heart broken, went back to dating guys immediately after because I was like, well, I'm not gay. It was just that one girl. I'm not gay.
It was a fluke.
There's no way I'm gay.
What was going through your mind that led to the denial?
I really, really, really wanted a shot at a happy life. And I had been raised to believe that if I was gay, I could never have a happy, normal, healthy life. So it's like the last thing I wanted coming through what I'd gone through
in terms of
was that.
Mm-hmm. You couldn't lead a normal life, a happy life in terms of discrimination, in terms of ostracism,
Not
or
even
in terms
that.
of what God thought of you.
It's like, it's all of it. I mean, it's, mainly just that like when you're raised in a homophobic household, you're really raised to believe that gay people are like this other thing. And so I'm like, well, I can't be gay because I'm not an other thing. I'm me. I'm still 100% me. It's just, And so like to have that thought, I just didn't want it to be true because I felt like if I was gay, it would somehow change who I am. Mm-hmm. And then obviously, years of self-reflection and coming out to very small groups and all that stuff, like it's not true. And that's the thing I kind of advocate the most to kids who live all across the country. Meeting these kids, I'm like, you don't have to be the biggest flaming homo in the whole world and still feel romantic love for the person you feel love for, And I think that like, it also got preached to me in a very like sexual way. Like it was about sex. It's about sex, which is of course affiliated with sin and yada, 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 yada. But it's super not. It's about love. I mean, you guys know what romantic love feels like. It doesn't feel like platonic love. Mm-hmm. It's a different feeling. Mm-hmm, and people seem to ignore that. Like sex is just sex, I mean, it's great, but it's not love.
I mean, you were wrestling with all this. You were trying. You had the girlfriend,
and then you go back. Then you go back to dating guys.
Mm-hmm.
You had she was officially your girlfriend. So amongst your group of friends,
only need to know basis.
Okay.
Very, very not out at all. even a little bit.
Wasn't public. So then you go back, date a couple of other guys.
Didn't work.
Doesn't work.
Yeah, once you've like fallen in love for the first time, like, you know, like I just was like, I'm like, it was just so bad. And, you know, I really tried.
Now, at this time, when you're struggling through this stuff, your relationship with your mom and dad, respectively, these are not real functional relationships. It's not like...
Well, she was emancipated.
You're emancipated from your mom.
Yeah, they're still in contact. I mean, like, you know, she was like my kid, you know?
But it's not this thing that... Is it this, okay, there's something that has sort of been ingrained in you personally that you're kind of struggling with, or is there this like, well, I don't want to have to tell my parents about this? It doesn't seem like the parents thing would be that big of a deal because now you're...
Nah, it's still like...
Beyond that.
You know, I think that the sad truth is that regardless of how your parents were able to or were not able to take care of you, there is something inherent that makes you want your parents' love and approval, regardless.
You want to please them.
Yeah. 100%. You know, obviously my mom wasn't able to really comprehend it. It was negative. We don't talk about it. And my dad, you know, I told him when I was like 23 or, you know, just randomly, I was like, not randomly, but I was like, hey, I just wanted to like give you a heads up. Not even that. It was more like, I'm going to tell you this now, you know, because we really don't have a relationship. It was just like, I felt like I should. Yeah. It's more for me, I guess, you know? And then one of the things that he said was...
How you just what did you say? You were just like, bam!
Well, I immediately burst into tears just because I just felt... It's not even... Again, it's really not about... It's just like what they represent. You know what I mean? And it was really, really hard. And then it was interesting, though, because, you know, he used the word choice, which a lot of people use. He's like, if you're going to choose to do this... And I was like, Dad, like, your dad's gay. Like, it's not my choice who I fall in love with. And he said, it is your choice. And he said, it is your choice whether or not to fall in love. So that's the sin. Even if you're a homosexual. It's like, cool, you're gay. It's in you. It's genetic. I get it. I accept that. Don't ever act on it. Don't ever fall in love with somebody. Just be single because that will make God happier. That's the choice in his mind. And I was like, that's up.
I mean, but you even... That had to have been crushing on some level. I mean, you obviously you expected it, but to hear it...
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of like, you know, it was, but at that point, like, I mean, our relationship is so not a factor in my life that at that point, it was almost kind of a relief to hear him say something so ignorant because it was like, wow, that doesn't even hurt. Like...
You could package his stance in his own words and then say...
It felt like watching any senator talk about how gay people don't deserve rights. You're just like, wow, you're one of those bad people.
So backing up just a little bit. So you date the guys, and then what kind of, when did it become just totally clear in your mind?
Now, and the girl, your first girlfriend, you said that she's not gay.
I don't know. I mean, like, it's hard. Like, I can't label anybody, but she definitely, you know, went back to the life that she felt more comfortable in. You know, I mean, it's unfortunately such a huge deal, but like microscopically, like sitting on the couch arguing about dishes, making dinner, falling asleep, doing chores, like life level, real life level, not a deal at all. But the way, I mean, some people, like, you get looked at on the street, like all that other stuff really bleeds into some people's hearts, the way they're perceived. And for me, I've never really been worried about the outside world. I'm like, outside world, I get it. I've always just really wanted the happy inside world. Like coming home and like having somebody be there being like, hey, you know, I made dinner, FYI. Also, I did the laundry. It's like, that's all I've ever wanted my whole life. You know what I mean? It makes everything worth it. But for some people who grew up with that, I think that having the, you know, paranoia of like, do you think the waitress is being rude to us because we're here together? That stuff, some people just can't get past.
So how did you find that inner voice after going back to boyfriends? You were still in the fighting phase at this point.
You know, just lots of like laying awake at night, feeling frustrated. You know, I would play all these games with myself. Would be like walking down the street and see a guy and see a girl who I would, you know, be like, okay, let's say they're about regular attractive. Or just see a random guy and see a random girl. I'm like, quick, like, who do you want to have sex with? and like trying to force an answer to that. And it's like, well, I don't want to have sex with either of these people. They're strangers. Like, why would I want to have sex with
Which, by the way, we should develop that game show.
yeah, quick.
Right. Who do you want to have sex with?
Right. But like people
then
do
the door's closed. It's like, too late. I don't get to have sex at all. No.
Well, there's a new
guys are diving under a door, getting.
Yep.
Not kidding. There's a new show in England called The Sex Box, where people go into a box, have sex, and then they come out and they're interviewed by a panel of sex experts.
Sexperts?
Yeah.
Shut up.
I'm not making this up.
God,
They stole our idea before we
but
had
I think who you want to have sex with is a better idea, just between the three of us here.
Or sex bots. It's an app now instead of sex box. Sex bots.
Oh, are we brainstorming now?
I don't know.
Let's just go back to your story.
Okay. Yeah. So I'd like do all these mind games with which a lot of people struggling with their identity, sexuality, yada yada, do to try and like trick yourself into an answer, trick yourself out of being gay, blah blah blah, and just it's emotional maturity. It just comes with time. It comes with like life, and I would get drunk at a party and end up accidentally making out with some girl, or like I'd be at a party and I'd be like, okay, yeah, I'm here with this guy who I like. I'm just gonna sit and talk to this girl on this couch for like the whole time. And then like he and I would leave the party and like go make out in his car. And I would just be like, she was so great. Hannah, shut up. You're making out with this guy in the car. Like, focus, get back to the center. So eventually you just get tired of it and you just, start to do the personal work to kind of undo the knots.
What was that moment for you that eventually I'm now tired of this?
I couldn't pinpoint it.
Was it in college?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's hard to say. It's a real amorphous journey now looking back at it. There was no other moment. The significant moments I remember were kissing her for the first time, going back to dating guys and feeling like that wasn't working. And then just kind of step by step, just, one day at a time, kind of accepting it, Sometimes I would tell people, oh yeah, I'm gay. If it's a stranger I was never going to see again. Well, I'm gay. Well, just like play with it, see how it felt.
Okay, so there wasn't this like, okay, now is when I'm going to come out of the closet and just publicly identify myself as like, I'm going to try it on this person and see how they react.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of people who I never, ever, ever, ever told. And if they watch YouTube or listen to Ear Biscuits, then now they know.
Oh, they do.
Oh, they do.
They probably found that on YouTube before Ear Biscuits.
I don't know. Ear Biscuits is like a really big deal.
So, was there a lot of chatter in the comments of your videos before you made a definitive announcement?
I'm not honestly like non-factor. Comedy's not about gay or straight. It's just about comedy.
But people in comments have a way of doing that.
I mean, like in my first video,
some channels.
In my first video, people are like, "She looks like Justin Bieber." Does she have? But like, it's always like, "Does she have a boyfriend? Does she have a girlfriend? She's hot. She's not hot." It's all the same stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then the coming out video, there was just a lot of like, I had no idea, and I was like, really? But then I'm like, well, who's to say? Like hipsters look gay, kinda. That's terrible. I shouldn't even say that. Yeah. I feel bad though when people talk to me about their coming out stories. I feel responsible, and I'm like, I'm sorry. It's awful. I get letters from kids all the time being like, I live in Alabama. I live in Nebraska. I will never, ever tell anybody. I met a 30-year-old woman who recently, heterosexual, came out 6 weeks ago, married, whole thing. And I was like, wow. And then my instinct.
Yeah, how did you met her in person?
Yeah, just be a fan. You bump into people,
Okay.
My instinct is still, because of the way I was raised. Are you sure? Because maybe you're not. I mean, like, do you really want to do this? How is your family going to react? But yeah, now I'm a role model for it.
So, and I think this is interesting because there's obviously gay celebrities who people, the gay community may look at as, we want you to speak on our behalf, or, but it's so different. Take gay out for a second and just talk about the difference between a traditional celebrity and then a YouTube celebrity. There's obviously a much stronger connection between your fan base.
Totally.
A traditional celebrity isn't sitting around and reading their fan mail and feeling responsible for something.
Yeah.
But we know, being in this position, it's just like your fans are your friends, and there's a.
I've been describing them lately as kind of your boss.
Right. Yeah, and there's a sense of obligation because
they're your performance review.
Exactly.
Yeah.
and then you throw in the fact that, okay, well, now you are in some senses a gay icon. And so now you got people. How are you dealing with that? I mean, people are confessing things to you. People are asking you questions.
Yeah. What is it like? You say you're interacting with people. They confess their struggles with you. They write you letters.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that has to get heavy.
It does. Yeah. And I think that, like, honestly, when I'm talking with them or reacting, I really try and, like, I guess choose faith instead of fear. Like, try and be like the brave version of me and not let, like, my own, fear compromise that, and just be like, if they can see me as someone who's, like, brave and confident and comfortable and unabashed and all that good stuff, then, like, and that's the person that they look up to, like, then there must be some truth in that. Like, that is that part of me, regardless of, like, the internal whirlwind of me being like, oh my God. But it's getting easier. I mean, when it first started,
my God, what? I mean, what is that internal whirlwind?
It's just basically like, I just don't want anybody to, like, suffer. But it's like, you have to choose your suffering, right? What are you going to do? Just be in the closet your whole life and be, like, semi-miserable? Or are you going to go through that really kind of brutal kind of reaching for something richer? But I think that's all life. It's like, do you choose comfort and stability, or are you going to pursue your, like, deeper truth? Like, and that's a choice people make.
Now, do you think that, do you respond individually to people, or do you take into account the things that people are saying to you personally and then let it change your content? Because you're kind of speaking to everyone at the same time. It's like, well, people keep asking me about this. Maybe I should make a video to answer this question collectively, or I'm going to respond to this person.
Mm-hmm. I think that it varies. You guys know. It's like there's no, like, direct set, always 100% system. Sometimes a comment will hit home and you're like, I'm going to talk about this. Sometimes you'll notice a trend and you're like, I'm going to talk about this. Mm-hmm. It's really just case by case.
But I would imagine you're hearing horror stories of people growing up in the closet and not knowing what to do with themselves. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're getting those type of letters, right?
Mm-hmm. I guess I kind of feel like something good that's, I'm getting those type of letters for a reason. And maybe that reason is I can show them, like, a happy life, So it's like, I don't want to get too preachy. B, it is only a portion of the audience. And C, they've sent me that letter because of something already. You know what I mean? So it's like, maybe the way of being a role model is to continue to do things the way I do them, Mm-hmm. But I do, I mean, there are videos there's, like, a list of videos that I really want to do. But it's, it's like heavier stuff, and it's, it's, the ones, like, the smaller videos that are more serious are always the ones you take more to heart. You know what I mean? And, like, once you put stuff like that out there, it's out there, and it almost is like, while you keep it close, while you play it close, you're like, well, maybe someday. And then once you put it out there, you're like, oh, I guess that really wasn't as big a deal as I thought,
Right.
What type of things, obviously you haven't made those videos yet, mm-hmm. But what type of questions? Maybe don't give us your answer as much as what are the questions? I
mean, like, these teens, like, we represent, like, a strong teen audience, right? And like I don't know if it's, I think that there's a real problem with, like, frankly, I really want to do a video about self-harm. Like, kind of just talking about it, like, taking away, like, undemonizing it, and just, like, speaking directly. Like, here are things you can do to, like, maybe help yourself out, I had a girl show me, like, her cuts on her arm, mm-hmm. and she told me, she was like, you helped me stop doing this. And her mom was with her, and her mom was crying. She's like, she was like, you helped me stop doing this, stop doing this. So thank you.
So do you, and we'll wrap up here in a second, but I think that, you've got this responsibility. You've got people asking you these questions. Do you think at some point it changed from I'm an entertainer to, like, okay, now I'm responsible? Because I think, it's interesting because I think because of who you are and the nature of your content and the fact that you you have talked about your sexuality in videos. It's significantly different than just two comedians who are making a bunch of funny videos where we think about the next video or we think about the next project. We're like, what thing are we going to create that's going to entertain? Not that we don't feel a sense of responsibility to our audience and that kind of thing, but it seems that there's a little bit more of it's a little weightier with you. Does that affect like what you're going to work on next?
I think it kind of honestly, like, the comedy stuff is like obviously more popular and it's great and it's comedy, and so it's wonderful to be an entertainer. And I know Grace gets a lot of intense stuff sent her way too, but Grace is a performer. She's an entertainer. She's a comedian. She studied it. She wanted to do it her whole life. Like, that's her thing. I think that because I never pursued entertainment, the fact that there's some resonance that can be more worthwhile in a different way, like, because comedy is worthwhile, but worthwhile in a different way, makes it more rewarding for me personally. Because, I mean, I love making people laugh, but I also want to make things better too, in whatever way I can.
I think for, just to wrap up, at the risk of kind of taking
He's going to say nipples.
A step backwards, I am going to say nipples one more time. No, I think maybe just this is re-asking a question and retreading some ground, but people who would say, there's certain people who may listen to our conversation here and they'll say, that Hannah, I see, she had a screwed up past.
That's why she's
gay.
Yeah, I know. It's so, and like, look, you're not going to, like, okay. But you know who else is gay? People that come from quote unquote perfect households. You know who else is gay? Black people, white people, ancient people, penguins, dolphins. Like, I get it, but like, there are people that I get really frustrated when people bring that up because it's A, so obvious, B, so irrelevant, because there's so much more evidence saying the opposite. But people are like, I figured you out. You came from a broken home, and that's why you feel the need to be homosexual. And it's like, a lot of people come from broken homes, and a lot of people come from healthy homes, and a lot of people are gay, and a lot of people are straight. It's just frustrating.
Well, Hannah, I will say this. I am very glad that you wiped all of the makeup that we put on your face off before we had this conversation.
Oh my God.
It would have taken a different tack. It really would have.
Oh my God. You know what? It's so funny. I've just, I totally forgot. I could have it on my face.
You would have forgotten that it's still on, but we would have been looking at it.
I would have been sitting here like touching, oh my God.
I'm talking to half Beetlejuice, half Wolfman.
Okay, Hannah, we need you to sign the table. Grab the Sharpie. Where is that, brother?
Uh-oh. Does anybody have any makeup left over?
We got to use the Sharpie.
I can find a Sharpie.
Half Chiefs fan, half Cardinals fan.
But seriously, thanks so much for sharing as much as you did and for allowing us to have this conversation.
Yeah, and this
I feel honored.
You're very sweet. Also, I will be editing this episode of Your Biscuits.
There's no edit.
They're looking at me so seriously right now. You guys can't even tell. No, absolutely.
No, we're thinking she does know that there's no editing at all, right?
Yeah, no, my pleasure.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a podcast.
It just goes.
And that was our conversation with Hannah Hart. I want to thank Hannah for coming and being real with an ear biscuit at the table of dim lighting. She opened up, told us a real story.
Yeah,
maybe some details that you haven't heard before.
I felt like it was a privilege that she decided to share to that extent, and we were able to gain an understanding of who she is and where she came from and the things that she had to deal with her parents and everything. I think that kind of unpacking her mom's story was something that maybe at first she didn't know that we wanted to go there. That was the type of thing we wanted to talk about on the podcast. Once we stopped recording, Hannah told us that she didn't want to seem like she was being evasive in talking about her mom and her mom's illness, that it was just getting a feel for where the podcast was going. But that once that was something that, I don't know how far to push on things like that, but I'm glad that she was comfortable sharing that part of her life and having to deal with her mom's illness and continuing to deal with it to this day. So the fact that she was comfortable sharing that too is, I love this show. I love doing this. I feel like we've crafted this type of conversation for us. These are the type of conversations that we want to have with people, but I'm glad that you out there in the listening world of the internet enjoy it.
Yeah, because I would say that the way I would characterize this show so far is I think it's a pretty selfish endeavor, honestly, because typically what we do is we just try to entertain people. I mean, not that we aren't, when we do Good Mythical Morning, when we do another video, that we aren't sitting down and trying to unpack something, but it's almost always purely for entertainment purposes. And with very little idea as to where this whole thing was going to go and first of all, we called it Ear Biscuits. We didn't really know what it was going to be. We're like, let's just sit down and talk to some people that we know from the internet, maybe some people that we don't know from the internet, and ask them the questions that we actually legitimately have for them and just have an interesting conversation without trying to be entertaining or trying to be funny. But I have to say, when I go back and I listen to these, it's hitting me. I'm like, I am being entertained by this. I am enjoying these conversations because these people that we're talking to are interesting. Everyone has this story, and when you begin to put the story together with a person that you know publicly, there's a really interesting thing that happens.
And it's challenging in a lot of ways. And, I think that happened some tonight.
So thanks to those of you who are listening to this on a weekly basis. The
template is set. This is what we're going to do.
Yeah. Those
every
of you
week.
You're sharing it. You're letting people know about it. We obviously appreciate that. And
we see the comments on Twitter, Facebook, SoundCloud. We see all those comments and we appreciate the feedback. Thanks for watching with your ears.
We'll see you next week.